Anita Sarkeesian has a video series called Tropes vs. Women in Video Games, and upon hearing about it, I initially thought to myself, is this really necessary? I mean, there are plenty of awesome video game women. I am not going to deny that some female characters are over-sexualized, most often by fans rather than developers, but I can easily name 10 video game women that little girls can look up to. Not only that, I can do it in descending order. But before I do that, I have to lay some ground rules. The characters on this list must be unambiguously female, meaning no pyro. The character must also be biologically female, meaning that she has no Y chromosomes in her cells. This means no Cortana, because she's an artificial personality that looks like a woman and is not actually a woman. Originally, I was going to have a rule saying that the character must be playable in some game at some time. However, upon constructing the list, that sort of just happened. It does make sense though. After all, you can't be one of the best by always working for someone else.
Number 10.
Back on the subject of Anita Sarkeesian, Feminist Frequency also has a series about good video game characters that are women. One of the characters in the intro for this series is Shell from Portal, and I have to admit, that's a pretty good choice. It is assumed that Shell does not talk to the robots out of defiance and hatred for their schemes, because while it is hinted at that she, in Portal 2, has brain damage, she did not talk in Portal 1, which was before she possibly had brain damage after that long sleep. She's also able to solve puzzles just as proficiently as she was able to in the first Portal, further implying that she does not have brain damage. Her character falters a bit because the games she's from do not focus on her character extensively, and the most that we know about her comes from unreliable narrators. Apparently, she's fat and adopted. But in the end, no matter how true those taunts may or may not be, Shell does not let them affect her.
Number 9.
Did you know Peach can be considered a good role model for children? It's true! Sure, she gets kidnapped a lot, but she can actually kick Bowser's butt in a game where Mario has no qualms with beating her up. She also rescues Mario and Luigi in her own game, where she uses the power of her emotions to cry her enemies away. When she's not using vibes, she has the dumbest look on her face. Okay, so maybe Peach really is terrible, but you know who isn't? Rosalina. Upon first gander, Rosalina might just seem like Space Peach. Anyone who has played Super Mario Galaxy, however, would know 2 reasons why that is anything but true. First, Rosalina is the leader of the Lumas. However, unlike Peach, who is implied to be born into royalty, Rosalina had to earn the respect of the Lumas over the course of many centuries. Second, and this is a big deal if you think about it, Rosalina is the only mainstream female Mario character who has never been abducted. Plus, she did more in Super Mario Galaxy alone than Daisy did in all of her games combined, let alone what Rosalina has done since Super Mario Galaxy. What, do you really think Daisy could make it into Super Smash Bros. Without ever being a Peach clone? Oh, you. It's a shame that quite a few of her fans have to make a bad example for everyone else by over-sexualizing her, as if they turned 13 around the time Super Mario Galaxy came out. Well, I did too, but I like to think I'm better than that.
Number 8.
Nemesis is my favorite goddess in Smite. Her subtitle is the Goddess of Vengeance, but she's more of the Goddess of Justice, as she constantly talks about the universe being out of balance and how it is her obligation to restore it. Her lore describes her as being feared even by Zeus, the god of the gods. Her moveset is very versatile. She can dash twice to chase weakened enemies, or to retreat from enemies when she's weakened herself. She also can slow her opponents by slicing them with her sword, and she has a reflector shield that when hit not only hurts the opponent, but also heals Nemesis in the process. Few things in Smite are quite as satisfying as using the reflector shield on an enemy ultimate. Her ultimate is a super debuff that practically never misses its target. Use it on Guardians to lower their defenses and make them easier to kill, or focus it on Assassins to remove what little protections they have. Her Scales of Fate also allow her to be extremely proficient in one-on-one fights, where she can drain the power of the enemy and add it to herself. By using all 5 of these abilities in synchronization, you can easily mow down any opponent. Outside of gameplay, she's able to lift her sword as if it were made of paper, and she's willing to make jokes about her own character flaws. She's actually blind, but the game allows you to see so that you can control her as if she were Daredevil. As for when she takes off her helmet, well, let's just say she's no Aphrodite.
Number 7.
If you think about it, without Luca, there would be no Chrono Trigger. When her mother was crippled in a machinery accident that Luca was unable to stop, she dedicates her life to science to make sure that the same thing never happens again. Of course, you can go back in time and undo the accident with no negative consequences, but I think that's kind of lame. 10 years later, she builds a telepod machine. Even if you believe that teleporter machine did not cause the gates to appear, Luca was able to create a gate key that stabilizes the gates that allow the crew to travel through time. Technologically speaking, Luca is centuries ahead of her peers, as she's able to repair Robo with relative ease. Not being satisfied just with laying down the groundwork for Chrono Trigger, Luca also sets the groundwork for Chrono Cross as well. She doesn't talk as much as Marl or Ayla, but she definitely does more than either of them.
Number 6.
Carla Valenti is a New York detective who is assigned to discover information about a murder within a diner. Never settling for the bare minimum, Carla does some extensive research and realizes that this is but one in a series of many murders that all have the same level of extreme detail. However, the murders were all conducted by different people, so how could that be? This could have been an open and shut case against Lucas Kane, the person who was found to be the murderer. However, Carla's insight allows her to help Lucas Kane escape and eventually help save the entire world. The genius of Carla's character is that she's a skeptic of the supernatural, yet is completely willing to change her mind when the evidence mounts against her. She's also one hell of a shot. Or isn't, if you decide to control her terribly. Carla isn't without her character flaws. She's a bit of a perfectionist, and she's also extremely claustrophobic. There's one tiny little problem though. Carla is one of the few video game women who have appeared in Playboy magazine, and is one of the even fewer who have appeared in it completely naked. I am not kidding. Granted, Indigo Prophecy, the game from which Carla originates, is the game closest to an AO rating I have ever played. The game has dark adult themes such as suicide, and the game also has sex scenes within itself. I find the whole thing hilarious because in the game, Carla is actually very reserved. She would be higher on the list if not for this, however, her character assets far exceed her physical assets, and she definitely deserves a placing on this list.
Number 5.
Street Fighter has two notable women, Chun-Li and Cammy White. Chun-Li's primary motivation is, oh, I must avenge my father, but Cammy's story is much more elaborate. Initially a villain, Cammy was brainwashed by M. Bison to be an assassin for the Shadaloo organization. Don't worry though, she got better. She obtains amnesia, but eventually regains her memories and dedicates her life to helping those who have been brainwashed by the Shadaloo organization and risking her life to make sure that such a thing never happens to anyone ever again. I like to believe I have a similar lifelong mission to make sure that something never happens to anyone else.
All representatives are currently assisting other customers. Your call is important to us, so please hold for the next available representative. Thank you.
If my call were important to you, you wouldn't put me on hold for 4 hours! Cammy has two signature moves, the Cannon Spike and the Spiral Arrow, which you will soon know after fighting her because she insists on saying the names of the moves every time she uses them. M. Bison once told Cammy that she was a clone of him, but he also once told her that they were once lovers. Either M. Bison is a lying dog or he has more love for himself than I could have possibly imagined. Clone, lover, both or neither, Cammy kicks his ass anyway.
Number 4.
When making these lists, there's always that one thing that everyone expects to show up. So, to surprise absolutely nobody, Lara Croft is on this list. Tune into my next video where Ocarina of Time makes it somewhere on the top 10 Legend of Zelda games. Jokes aside, it's pretty apparent why Lara Croft is such a popular heroine, using her cunning and agility to uncover the world's secrets. The 2013 reboot took a more survivalist approach to the video game series. However, I can still see the groundwork of a world-class Tomb Raider within Lara Croft.
Number 3.
Faith Connors hates Big Brother, but she loves her sister more. Faith is a freelance courier for the resistance to the totalitarian regime, and she has her own personal grudge against the police. When her cop sister Kate is framed for a murder, Faith fights tooth and nail to set her free. While the player has ultimate control of her for the majority of the game, Faith shows in the cutscenes that she is dignified by refusing to fire a shot at anyone. She's as quick with her mind as she is with her body, making her, I would argue, more agile and witty than Lara Croft herself. It's just a shame her game wasn't better. Come on, I just want to drop down. There's a ledge right beneath me. I don't understand why the ledge I'm on is even grabbable if I can't get off of it in the first place.
Number 2.
When beating the original Metroid in under 5 hours, gamers were astonished to find out that the character they were playing as was a woman all along. Wait, why? This torture device was released in 1986, not 1956. Madonna was extremely popular at the time, and we had a female member of the Supreme Court for 5 years. I just don't understand the shock. But I digress. Samus is a very complicated character. She respects the lives of other creatures, yet she is a bounty hunter. She hates working with others, but is not above working in a team in order to get the job done. She can use her suit to roll around in a ball, but she cannot use it to crawl. Like Faith Connors, Samus Aran has priorities and sticks to them. My favorite example of this is from Metroid Prime 3, where she's willing to save the homeworld of the people who killed her parents in order to stop the Phazon menace. At the same time, her greatest character flaw is her inept foresight. Lead the last Metroid with researchers in an unfortified space station? It's not like the space pirates might try to take it, clone it, and reenact the events of the original Metroid. Be the cause of the genocide for Metroids? It's not like its natural prey is going to have a massive population boom. Defeated the Omega Pirate? It's not like it's gonna fall on you. This hilarious inability to predict the future actually supports a strong character trait. She's always willing to right her mistakes, which leads to more Metroid games. And that's rarely a bad thing. The fun thing about honorable mentions is that I get to twist the rules a little bit. GLaDOS is a robot. Carolyn, however, is not. Since, spoiler alert, Carolyn's personality is uploaded into GLaDOS, you can make the argument that GLaDOS is Carolyn and Carolyn is GLaDOS. GLaDOS is a hilarious villain and, spoiler, sidekick in Portal 2. If that is Carolyn's personality, then she was great. If you don't like how I converted Carolyn to GLaDOS and then back to Carolyn again, well, that's exactly why this is an honorable mention. Well, that and that these 10 are better.
Number 1.
If we were to judge the different Zeldas entirely off of how much each one does, the best Zelda would be the Zelda from Wand of Gamelon, saving both her father and Link from the evil clutches of Ganondorf and Duke Enclave. What's more important though is what someone does rather than how much he or she does. And all things considered, the best female video game character is Zelda from Twilight Princess. I've talked about Zelda in Super Smash Bros. In a previous video, so instead I'll focus on her main game. In events before the player takes control of Link, Zelda surrenders to Zant in order to avoid fighting a lost cause in order to save resources such as time and energy. Something I wish players I played with knew about! Twilight Princess Zelda combines the regal demeanor of Princess Peach with the audacity of Samus Aran. In the first third of the game, Zant holds her hostage. She lays the groundwork for the rest of the game by sending Link and Midna on their journey. Later, when Midna is injured, Zelda selflessly gives herself so that Midna may live. In the final part of the game, Zelda helps Link defeat Ganondorf by firing light arrows. She also drops anecdotes of wisdom throughout the game. Practically all of the other Zeldas do something extremely foolish at one point in their game or another, but it didn't feel that way with the brunette. If there's one reason I want a sequel to Twilight Princess, it's so that I can see more of this Zelda in action. Until that day comes, I'll just have to be satisfied with lightning kicking everyone into next week. Not that I'm not satisfied. Now it's time for the typical like, favorite, subscribe, and watch my other videos banter. Huh, that was quick.
Here, kitty, kitty, kitty. That's a bad kitty. She hates it when I do that.